Hello. For this screencast, I've chosen another galaxy, which is a bigger galaxy with higher signal noise ratio, and this is the galaxy number 199, if I am right. But the thing is that sometimes you feel like whatever you do here in Glga TV, it doesn't work, or your mouse doesn't work, or none of these buttons are clickable. It means that probably there is another window, like one of these window, that is asking a question, and you clicked on that bigger window and it hides behind the original window, and that makes you unable to use the other indicators that you see here. So before doing anything else, you just look for the other windows that may be available on your screen, and it needs your action. So here it asks me, this is a new galaxy. We haven't found any point sources or foreground objects for this galaxy. Do you want to run the automatic algorithm to find them? And I'm gonna press yes here, and it does the job. It finds all of these foreground stars here. The indicators that you see here they have been divided in a couple sections here. The first section here on the top, it shows what kind of survey you are using the photometry for, which is Vice here, the name of the object, and the number of items in the list, and what kind of item that you are currently working on. These numbers are x, y of the image, the coordinate of the image, right ascension, declination, value and flux of whatever point that you are pointing using your mouse, but it doesn't show any result here unless you click on lock here. As soon as you click on lock, it becomes activated and it shows all of those values. If you are interested in looking at the coordinate of different point sources or different objects that you see, you can use that feature. That unlock button, and it doesn't, as soon as this is locked, none of these other options would work unless you unlock this button. To unlock this unlock button doesn't work. If you click on it, it doesn't do anything. And in order to unlock it, you have to go here somewhere in the TV, and you click on your right mouse button. Basically, you right click. I'm locking it again. It's locked. All of these values would be changed, but to unlock it, I'm gonna press right click on my mouse when my mouse pointer is in this bigger screen. And again, the status of this button is changed. It's unlocked, and to lock it again, you can use that one. The other bar that you see here is the band bar or filter bar. It shows what kind of image you see here. If you are going to look at W1 in grayscale, you press that one. W2, press that one. W3, and so on. At W3, most of these stars are gone. They don't have any emission at W3. And W4 is missing. I don't have any data for it, and even it doesn't allow you to choose that option. W1, 2, 3 is a composite image generated based on these three bands. When you are in this mode, basically if you press on DS9 button here, it opens up the DS9 image of the W1 band. If you wanna open any of other images like W2, you click on W2 and it changes the mode of this window here, and it opens the fixed image of the W2 for you if you are interested. The other feature that uh, this control panel has is this section, which enables you to create regions, masking regions, and finding objects. I'm gonna start with finding point sources. As I mentioned earlier, when we opened up this object, it didn't have any open sources, and it asked us to create new sources, and it automatically found new sources, and all of them highlighted in blue here. But what if we are not happy with these sources and we are gonna add more? So we are gonna change these parameters that are being used to find these sources. If you use find the stars, this button here, basically it comes back with this window. I'm gonna click yes, and then here in the terminal I can change the parameters that are used by this function, this algorithm, to find these point sources. I can change the sigma multiplier for the threshold. I can decrease that, and I can increase the magnitude faint limit to find more point sources. Sometimes it takes a while to come back with more sources, and these are all the point sources that we want to see. If you change the limits or change these variables in such a way that it finds too many sources, sometimes you don't want to mask out anything inside this aperture that you use for photometry. In order to delete those centroids, you click on this button and this is activated. Basically, it shows you the instruction in the terminal. So basically you left click with your mouse at different points until you end up with a closed region, and to close it up you right click, and as soon as the region is selected, if you press yes here, which means that you are happy with the region that you have selected, and it removes all of these point sources that are inside that region. And as you see, all of these point sources have been removed. The other option that you have here is to increase or decrease the sensitivity of the algorithm that finds these point sources. I'm gonna decrease it a little bit. And here it basically changes the magnitude faint limit. And whenever you run that algorithm, again, if we have removed many of these point sources here, it's gonna find them again. So you have to delete all of those point sources if you want. You click on this button, delete centroid, and then left click, right click to close the region, and then you press yes, and these point sources are gone. Sometimes there are places or artifacts or some regions in the image that you want to filter out, and they are not point source like. For example, these diffraction spikes here. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit, and I'm gonna just grab all of that object and get rid of it. In that case, because this is not falling into the point source category, I'm gonna use add region, and then I'm gonna define a region with left mouse click, and to close up that region I'm gonna use my right mouse click and finalize my selection. So basically that region would be masked, but if you're gonna make sure that region would be masked for all of these these filters, you are gonna use refresh here. It refreshes the image and the masked region is in green. And as you see, the mask status here is for all bands, which means that the mask that I've generated here, it's being applied for all of these bands. But let's say we see something at W1 and we are going to mask it out just for W1. And for that, so I use W1 here and then I change mask, and here it means that it says current mask is filter W1, and I'm gonna just add a mask here for just W1 to show you how it works. Again, the same scenario. I'm gonna just add mask. I'm gonna close it. Keep region yes. And I'm gonna refresh it to see what color that mask turns into. It's kind of magenta color. So if you see a mask which is magenta, which means that it's been created in one of these modes, filter W1, 2, 3, 4, but it's not being applied to all of those wavelengths, wavebands. If I go to W2, you see these masks that have been generated for all of those wavebands, it shows up, but the other one, it doesn't show up. If I go to W1, again, I see that mask coming back. But again, if you mask out something like that, you need to switch back to all filters, because most of the time we want to mask regions that are applicable to all of these wavelengths. It's more or less the same for all of the images. There are other useful buttons here. For example, let's imagine I'm gonna add another mask here, and I'm keeping that region. I'm gonna refresh to see what color it turns into. It's green. It's gonna be applied to all of these filters, but I'm not happy with that mask. I'm gonna remove that mask. If you undo, it removes that one. I'm gonna add another region here. Basically, I'm gonna add a couple more regions. Add another region. Yeah. I'm gonna refresh. These two are in green, and I've decided to remove the mask that I created in the beginning of this session. To remove just one mask, I'm gonna go to remove a region. I'm gonna click on this button. It becomes activated, and here in the terminal says click inside the region you would like to remove. Basically, I go to that region. I can click anywhere inside that region and it removes it. Again, if I wanna remove that one, for example, I'm gonna change that status to filter W1, because that has been created for W1, and then I remove a region, and then I can remove that region forever. I'm gonna remove these regions as well. It doesn't do anything because I am in the status where I can modify filters for W1, and these regions have been created for all of these wavelengths. So if I change it to all bands and then I remove a region, I can do the same here. I'm gonna go ahead and add the region back here because I do really want to get rid of that bright spikes, and basically this is how these control buttons work. I talked about change mask, add region, undo region, remove a region, clean all regions. If I press on this one, it basically removes everything that have been created. And here I have to select no in order to remove all of them. And since this is kind of dangerous, sometimes we have spent a lot of time to create all of these regions. It asks you several times to make sure that you know what you are doing. I'm gonna add that region back. Save regions basically saves all of the changes that you've made here. Find a star basically finds these centroids, and it allows you to modify the parameters in the terminal. Delete centroids, basically it allows you to delete centroids that are inside a region that you define. Just if you want to delete centroids here, you select that one, you go and define a region, and then you just get rid of them. And this bar here, it allows you to define circular regions. It gives you different options, different sizes. If I choose one of them and I go here and I press middle click on my mouse, it shows the size of that region that would be created. But they are in red, which means that they are not gonna be applied on my image. I'm just testing the size here using the middle click of my mouse. As I increase the size, you see it shows you different sizes. Alright, I'm gonna refresh. Just imagine that I'm trying to use circular regions to mask out that area. So I'm gonna use one of them, 35, which has this size. It's a little bit bigger than the one it was found automatically. And I'm gonna lock it, because if I don't lock it, it doesn't do anything. I lock it, and when I'm locking it, still I can use the middle click to see the size. But if you use your right click or your left click, it shows green circles, which means that all of the regions, all of the pixels inside those green circles would be masked. If you want to see the mask, the final result, you press refresh and it shows the mask for you. Still, because these are the regions, these are the masks that have been created manually, you can delete them if you want. You can remove them, remove a region. Again, you can delete them. I have to unlock that. Just make sure that once you are done with creating regions, unlock that one. But if you make any mistake, for example, I made a mistake and I created that new mask, if I refresh, it would be added to the entire region, to the entire mask that I've created here. But if you add anything by mistake, you can still remove them. Remove a region, click inside the area, and it removes them one by one. Remove a region, click inside that, it removes it. In the middle of your work, if you wanna remove multiple masks, you can just use remove a region, or if you wanna repeat the same task, instead of going here and click on remove a region on this button, you can use your right mouse click and basically it repeats the same process for you. Click, it removes it. Right click, left click, right click, left click. I'm gonna show you how it works. Lock the region, add a multiple masks here, and just imagine I have added these two by mistake. I'm gonna remove them one by one. Remove, and then remove a region, remove, and I'm gonna repeat the same process for all of these. So right click, left, I'm gonna start it over. Right click, left click, right click, left click, right, left, right, left. Okay. So this section has been devoted to all connections or data transfer between DS9 and this window. This window doesn't have a lot of capability, therefore we use DS9 that has those capabilities. For example, we are gonna see whether or not this aperture is good enough for the galaxy we are working on. So to see the optical image of the galaxy, that galaxy is 64181. 64181. I opened that up in HyperLido and it uses one of these optical images that it has. It looks like this. It's bright galaxy. So I'm gonna open W1 DS9. I changed the scale to Z scale. And to see the contours, I'm gonna click on contours here. I changed the smoothness and the number of levels it creates each time I click on generate and then apply. Alright, so I'm gonna remove these two dashed apertures which define the annulus, background annulus. I'm gonna click on edit, then region. I click inside any of these regions and using the delete button on my keyboard and I delete them. Then I click inside the red one, which is the main aperture, and I modify it a little bit, and then I hold shift key and I drag the corner to modify the orientation or the position angle of that ellipse. As soon as I'm satisfied, I just remove or close this window that modifies contour parameters. I don't need that. Then that modified ellipse is needed to be imported into this window. Then I click on import ellipse. It's imported. Then I increase the size a little bit because I know that this galaxy is probably larger than the region that I've chosen. Then I export the new ellipse that I created here that was enlarged to DS9. Then I export it. This is here. I'm gonna turn off the contours on DS9 and then I'm gonna display everything here. Probably I'm happy with the aperture that I've chosen. Probably a little bit smaller semi-major axis would help. Since I changed that one, I need to apply those changes into GLGA program, so I import it, which means that I import that information into this program. I import it, and probably I am happy with the thing that I have here, the aperture and the annulus that is being used to calculate the background. The other options that you have here, I already talked about DS9 and contours, but sometimes you need to just use both of them. You need to open DS9 and you have to activate contours. You can use this plus sign, but it doesn't matter if you don't know how it works. The other thing that is useful, these closed regions in DS9, they are called regions in general, and they are controlled by these menu options that you see on DS9. If you are going to clear all of those regions, you have two options. You can go here and you can delete all regions, or you can basically use clear regions, and it clears all of these regions that you have. You can either use these delete all regions. You have to go here and delete all regions, or you can go here and with one basic simple click I can clear all of them. Centroids, if I run the photometry, these centroids would be finalized, and later I can show them on my DS9 image. Right now it doesn't work. It means that these centroids have not been yet finalized. I need to first run the program until in order to make them finalized. The other thing that still works here is the manual region. Sometimes there are regions that you don't see on the black and white or grayscale image here, like the one I've created here. You don't see the galaxy inside that region, but you see them here on DS9. Just make sure that you have activated the editing capability of regions. Just imagine that you are going to mask these regions. You just click and drag your circle, change the size, and you want to mask all of these areas, probably, and that area as well, or that area as well. As soon as you are done with all of your selections inside DS9, you can click on this reg button here, which means that it imports all of the information of these pixels into Glga and it masks them out. As you see, all of those red buttons, or all of the pixels inside those red circles, have been imported into this window. Just make sure if you click on this button once, if you click on that twice, it creates the regions twice, and you need to remove them, or it makes it harder to get rid of all of those regions. Still, since these are regions, you can delete them if you want. Just imagine you don't like that one and you are trying to remove that. Again, you can go to the remove a region and click inside that region and it would be removed. There is a bug in the code that has not yet been addressed, is that the remaining of that circle here, it shows up on the other side, and most of the time it doesn't affect the photometry process, but if it does, we have to make a note and we have to make some improvement for the regions that we have created, or if it affects the photometry here, we need to remove that region, it goes away, and we need to add the manual region here, not using DS9. You don't need to use that button because you already use DS9 to change the size of the ellipse or to change the position angle of the ellipse. But in order to increase or decrease the size of the ellipse that you've defined as the photometry aperture, you can use one of these plus or minus signs. It changes the size of the ellipse that you see here. I'm gonna remove clear all of the regions in DS9, and probably I don't need all of that DS9. You can use that or close all DS9s. Yes. And basically at this point we have generated all of the centroids. We have masked out very bright stars, diffraction spikes. Even you don't see diffraction spikes here, and it would be a good idea to switch to W2, open up DS9 again, because in DS9 you have better control of the image. I'm gonna clear all the regions. I'm gonna export the galaxy aperture here to see what region I've chosen as the aperture. I'm gonna change the scale to Z scale. And also I can try to open up DS9 for W3. I'm gonna close the W2 one. W3 is super noisy, the galaxy. I'm gonna switch to Z scale or min max. My galaxy is noisy, probably I don't expect to get very good photometry results. And so yeah, that's it. So we are done with centroids, masks, aperture, and we are gonna run the photometry using that button. If for whatever reason you realize you don't like to work on that one, you can skip. You can save whatever work you did. You can save and it close it. And when you save it, it doesn't do the photometry, it just saves all of these centroids and all of these masks that you created. And now if you open DS9, because you saved your work, all of these are in orange. You can open DS9, you can switch to Z scale. I am W1, I am looking at W1. And since they are in orange, you can use that centroid button and they are all showing up here. Just one thing to remember, at this point when you see all of these circles, don't use that reg, because if you do that, it converts all of these centroids to regions, and regions are harder to delete, whereas it's easier to remove the centroids. The centroids can be removed using these delete centroids, and you can just delete them easily by defining a region and remove them. But regions or masks, these green ones, they need to be deleted one by one. Alright, now I am happy with the kind of work that we did. We are gonna do the photometry. Since this is a bigger galaxy, it takes a while to come back with the result. And that's what we've got. Again, the growth curve has a positive slope. Sometimes that helps to increase the size of the aperture. I'm gonna just run it really fast because I don't want to change this number of centroids or sensitivity of the algorithm that finds centroids. And again, this is the window that shows up on my other monitor. You see the positive slope here. If you wanna look at W2, you go to this profile, W2, and basically that diagram is equivalent to these diagrams that you see here, but it has more details, and it shows these galaxies in different scales. Sometimes that's helpful to see what's going on. And here basically there is a residual in the background. I'm gonna remove that around 3.8 or somewhere like that. I'm gonna have an estimation of the background level, or the I'm gonna modify it. I'm gonna go to the background here, modify back radius. It tells me to enter the value in the terminal, and for that I'm gonna use 3.8. That's basically where we can estimate the background level. And that's probably okay for W1. For W2 that's okay. This is for W1. I'm gonna open W2, a little bit over subtraction, but it's not that much. And for W3 it's not good at all. But right now there is no way to choose different values for different wavelengths, but at some point we should have that capability, or we should have some capability to just increase or decrease the background level that is being estimated by some percentage. Like we should be able to add some percentage to the background level, and it should be controlled manually. But right now it estimates everything based on the slope it observes here at the radius that we define. And sometimes changing that background radius, I call it, that helps. Right now I used 3.7, and at this point probably it's too much. If I change it and set it at 3, and that red vertical line here basically shows the is corresponding to this elliptical dotted line, the red aperture that we use for photometry. So even if I use 3 here, it means that I am still outside the galaxy region. So I changed it to 3. I'm gonna run it again and see what happens. Yeah, still W1 is really good. W2 probably needs some modification, and W3 has not been over subtracted, which is a good sign. If I look at W3 here, it's not over subtracted. Instead of 3 or 3.8 that I used earlier, I'm gonna use 3.5. At this point everything is based on try and error. 3.5, 3.5, continue, yes. Again, W3 is over subtracted. So I'm gonna go back and set it to 3. And finish this screencast. So the background radius has been set to 3 here, and this is what we've got earlier. The growth curve for W1 is like that, which is acceptable. For W2 has has a positive slope, but we can just take a log of that and see whether we can improve it later or not. I'm gonna just end this screencast here. I'm gonna quit, next, finished. W2 and W3 are not good, and the quality is between 4 3, and here I can use some gradient and gradient in W2, W3